morning, good evening, good afternoon. I don't know what area you're watching from, but no matter the area, you are welcome here to Cycle Breakers for Life, to our Cycle Breaking Monday. I'm Pastor C, and I'm glad to have you here with us on tonight. We have been digging into the Word for the past 7 weeks, and I am so excited to get started with our topic on tonight. So, if this is your first time being here with us on Cycle Breaking Monday here on the Cycle Breakers for Life page, then know that you are truly welcome to be here. Give StreamYard permission to post your comments because we want to hear you. We want you to be intertwined in our lesson tonight. So give a heart, give a thumbs up, make your comments, ask your questions. And if I don't get to answer them here on the live, I will answer them after we get off. So thank you so much for tuning in. Good to see you tonight, G. To mom, good to see you all. I see numbers, but sometimes I can't see who you are until you make a comment. But at any rate, we're ready to jump right into week 8 of our series, MMB, Shift, Align, and Execute. And so before we step into tonight, week 8, I need to circle back to something from last week because week 7 was not light. It was not a surface teaching. It was not one of them cute little things that we say and do. It was deep. Week 7 was about being aligned but still afraid. And that hit so differently for many of us because the high point of last week was this: alignment does not erase your fear. No, it doesn't. It gives you direction in the presence of your fear. And that was the breakthrough. Some of you were waiting to feel fearless before you moved. You were waiting for the anxiety to calm down or the doubts to quiet, the what if thoughts to disappear. But we learned something really powerful last week. Joshua was aligned, and he still needed to be told, be strong and courageous. Gideon, he was called and still asked for confirmation. And Moses was chosen for sure, but he felt inadequate. Fear showed up, but fear didn't get to lead. And that was the shift in the room last night. We said it clearly. Fear can be present, but Guess what? It cannot be the president of your life. All right. Fear can ride in the car, but it doesn't get to drive. And that was the high point. Execution begins when you stop waiting to feel ready. You move while your knees are shaking. And I have had plenty of times when my knees were shaking. You obey while your voice trembles. You build even when your confidence is still catching up. And here is why this matters tonight. Because once you decide to move in the presence of fear, no matter what, I'm going to do what God says. The next challenge isn't fear anymore, it's consistency. Type it in the chat: consistency. All right, consistency. Fear may stop you from starting, but inconsistency will stop you from building what God is putting in your hands. And that's where we are now. Last week you stepped forward. This week we learned how to walk and how to keep walking. Last week was about courage. This week it's rhythm. Last week was movement. This week we're going to talk about momentum because one bold step is powerful, but sustained steps, that's what changes your life. So week 7 freed you from waiting on fear. Week 8 is going to free you from starting over. Okay. So if you're ready for me to step into it, type in the chat, let's go, Pastor C. If you're ready to start, just type in the chat, let's go, Pastor C, because I'm ready to go. I mean, my knees aren't shaking, thank God, tonight, but they have shook a lot of times when the Spirit of the Lord has led me to do something. But I'm ready to dive into being consistent, and being on fire for God with a steady momentum. So if you're ready, type, let's go, Pastor C. All right, G, I see that. I'm ready. I'm ready. Let me get a couple more. Let's go, Pastor C. Let's go, Pastor C. And if you're ready, be my cheerleader because I'm definitely yours. All right. All right. So here, let's settle in, okay? Thanks, Mom. I see you. Thank you. So let's settle in because this is not, it's not going to be one of those boost you up messages, right? This is a building message because cycle breakers, we've been walking this thing out step by step. We did not rush into 26 shouting about a new year and a new me. No, we slowed it down. We realigned. We confronted misalignment. We stopped negotiating with old versions of ourselves. And we learned how to execute even while we were afraid. So now we're stepping into something that determines whether all that actually produces fruit. Momentum. Type it in the chat. Momentum. All right. Now, momentum is sustained forward movement created by consistent, focused action over time. It's the force that builds when you keep moving in the same God ordained direction long enough for your effort to compound and to bring the vision that God has given you into fruition. Momentum is what matters, what happens when obedience stops being occasional and becomes habitual. It's progress that gains strength because it refuses to quit. Oh, I see you all. Momentum, because momentum is not loud, but it is layered. It's not explosive, but it is accumulative. It is the quiet power of consistency multiplying itself. And here enters one of my favorite characters in the Bible, one of my favorite brothers in the Bible, Nehemiah, doing work, and he didn't come down. Nehemiah 6:3 says, when they asked him to come down for a meeting, he said, I'm doing a great work and I can't come down. That is the language of momentum because Nehemiah was rebuilding a wall in the presence of criticism, distraction, and intimidation. His enemies kept calling him down for meetings. They wanted a conversation, they wanted to debate, they wanted to delay his movements. But Nehemiah understood something so powerful. And this is it. Every time you come down from your assignment to entertain distraction, you interrupt your momentum. I'll say it again. Every time you come down from your assignment to entertain a distraction, you interrupt momentum. He didn't say, look, dudes, I'm busy. No, he said, I'm doing a great work and I can't come down. Now, let me tell you, what he was saying is, I'm focused. Now that was MMB in motion. I wore my sweatshirt again tonight because I wanted you to know I'm MMB and minding my business. That was momentum being protected. And I need you to hear me clearly tonight. Momentum is not emotional. It's not a hyped up thing. It's not one powerful prayer night. It's not one good week where you feel locked in. Momentum is built. You don't stumble into momentum. You create it. You create it through focus. And that's why this week is called MMB in Motion. How focus fuels momentum. Because minding your business is not passive, it's powerful. It's the discipline that protects your energy so that your energy can produce results. So let me talk to you really plain on tonight. Some of you are not stuck. Sometimes we get to doing things and we get like stalemated. It's like, 1 minute we're moving and the next minute we're like, I don't know what to do next. What should I say? What should I do? How should I do it? How far should I take it? I mean, we just literally get stuck. And I want to tell you that as I was praying about, the teaching and really putting this together, the Lord let me know that some of you are not stuck because you're incapable. You're stuck because you're scattered. Scattered means your attention is divided, your efforts become diluted, and your energy is dispersed across too many directions all at one time. Scattered looks productive on the outside to people looking in, but internally, we're fragmented. It's when you're busy, but you're not building anything. You're active, but you're not advancing. You're not going anywhere, moving, but you're not progressing. Scattered energy is effort without alignment. Oh, yeah, you've got vision, you've got ideas, you've got ability, but your energy is divided. You're building your business, but you're watching three other people's business pages, right? You're trying to strengthen your marriage, but comparing it to somebody else's highlight reel. You're growing spiritually, but you find yourself distracted by every trending voice online. And I'm going to tell you, the internet is a great disruptor, great distraction, and it can often get us off track with the things that God has called us to be because we start doing what I call comparison. We contract comparisonitis. Let me put it like that. You start comparing yourself to other people's ministries, other people's businesses, what this marriage looks like. And a picture is worth, a penny when it comes to real life. Because just because someone posts a picture of their relationship, they're all hugged up and, lovey-dovey, whatever. It doesn't mean that that's like what it is on the inside. Doesn't mean they don't have tests. Doesn't mean they don't have trials. Doesn't mean that the business is not going through a slump. It doesn't mean the ministry is falling off. Sometimes things can look so good on the outside to us as looking at a situation, but it doesn't mean it's that way. And here's the truth about us, scattered energy. When you're all over the place, it will really kill your momentum. The Bible tells us in Proverbs 4:25, he says, let your eyes look straight ahead. Fix your gaze directly before you. Now, that's the language of focus. That's not casual attention. That's intentional concentration. See, focus is a spiritual discipline. When we say MMB, minding my business, we're not talking about being antisocial. So let me throw that in there now. We're talking about being concentrated, being focused, and there's a difference. When we look in the scriptures, Jesus is a great model of that. He models it perfectly. There were always crowds around him, always needs to be met, always demands on his attention. But the scripture says he often withdrew to pray. Often. That means repeatedly, habitually. He had rhythm. He didn't let urgency override his assignment. And that's why he had momentum. Momentum. Type it again in the chat. Momentum. Momentum is simply sustained forward movement built on consistent obedience. And some of us, we keep stopping our own momentum because we keep switching lanes. We get inspired and then we move to something else. You get distracted and you pivot. You see something new and you shift again. And every time you shift without alignment, you reset your momentum. That's what's happening here. Resetting your momentum. When you reset your momentum, let me tell you, you're returning to zero before the compound effect has time to even build up. I guess the best way I can explain this is like, think about pushing a heavy object up a hill. The first few pushes are the hardest, but once it starts rolling, it gains force. But if you stop and change direction repeatedly, you lose the buildup of force. Resetting your momentum means you are constantly restarting instead of sustaining. You're living in beginnings instead of breakthroughs. And it's like you keep starting over again. I once read a report that when you're doing an assignment or you're working on a project and you get distracted and you go and do something else, it takes you 20 minutes to reset your brain back to what you were doing. So that's 20 minutes that you lost. So let's say you got distracted about 5 times or 4 times, that's an hour and 20 minutes that you could have been sitting and doing what you needed to get done. 20 minutes to reset your brain to get back to what you were doing in the first place. So let me ask you something gently, but honestly. Are you tired because you're working hard, or are you tired because you're working scattered? Ooh, there's a difference. Scattered work, it exhausts you because it leaks energy in 10 different directions. Focused work strengthens you because it builds rhythm, and rhythm creates results. Focused work strengthens you because it builds rhythm, and rhythm creates results. Galatians 6:9 says, let us not grow weary in well doing, for in due season we shall reap if we faint not. You shall reap if you faint not. That verse is not about emotion, it's about endurance. It's about staying steady long enough for the harvest to show up. Momentum requires what I call boring faithfulness. Now, you probably say, now, Pastor C, that's like an oxymoron, boring faithfulness. We're supposed to be faithful, right? But boring faithful, let me explain. Boring faithfulness is like when you show up when it's not exciting anymore. It's doing what works repeatedly without needing an applause, right? It's staying committed when the novelty of the thing has worn off. It's like showing consistency without constant validation. No one's cheering for you. No one's patting you on the back. It's waking up and doing the same assignment again and again and again, even when no one even notices what you're doing. It's choosing discipline over drama. And that kind of faithfulness feels ordinary, but it produces extraordinary results. I'm talking about boring faithfulness. I'm going to show up. I'm going to do it because I need to. It's consistency. It's like getting on a treadmill. The first time I got the treadmill, I was excited. Oh, I'm going to get a treadmill. I'm going to walk for 20 minutes every day in the morning and 20 minutes every day at night. And I was just so excited about that, right? And I tell you, after about a week, the novelty wore off. And I was like, oh man, I got to walk on the treadmill. And I'd get on the treadmill and then I'd play my little podcast while I'm listening to it. And I'm looking at my watch, trying to see if the time had passed yet for me to get off. Because the novelty had worn up. That was boring faithfulness. But let me tell you, it after about 21 days, I stayed on that thing and it's a habit now. When I do my quiet time and I do my podcast, I read my book, I just have that power of 5, which we talked about before, right? I have 5 things I try to do before I do anything else during the course of a day. And I'm telling you, I feel empowered. I've dropped off weight. I've started to tone because I was consistent. It was boring. It got boring for me, but being committed and being content with what I was doing, it built momentum. And it taught my brain that this is what we do. This is what we do every day. This is what we do around this time. So my body began to yearn for that, even though I had lost the zeal or the excitement of it. Now I was committed to it, right? So I know we like breakthroughs now. I know we like breakthrough moments. I know we like sudden acceleration, but the most real momentum is built in the unseen, in the repetitive motions, in the consistent. So, even with entrepreneurs, those of you that are entrepreneurs and you're running a business, momentum in business isn't like one viral post that you make, it just goes viral, and that's exciting, but it's consistent service. It's showing up weekly. It's refining your systems. It's improving slowly but steadily. For parents, momentum in our home isn't one perfect conversation. It's having a steady presence with your children. It's setting consistent boundaries. It's having predictable love. And for leaders in ministry and the workplace, momentum isn't emotional intensity. It's integrity over time. Integrity, doing what you said you were going to do, showing up when you said you're going to show up, functioning like you said you were going to function. Integrity, it's preparation, it's follow through, it's being dependable when nobody is applauding for you, when nobody's on the sideline saying you're doing a great job. I'm going to sow some money into you. No one's doing that, right? To singles and married couples, momentum in relationships is not grand gestures. It's not. That's wonderful. It's nice, but it's repeated healthy patterns, communication, accountability, and growth. So here's the shift this week from scattered energy to sustained execution. I'm going to say it again. You want to go from scattered energy to sustained execution. I don't want to just be scattered all over the place. That's fickle. One minute you're doing this, then one minute you're doing that. The next minute you're saying this, next minute you're saying that. After a while, I mean, I'm confused. I know you got to be confused, right? One minute you're posting this, that you're doing this, and next minute you're posting that you're doing this, and the next minute you're doing this, and next minute you're doing that. And yeah, I mean, business and our lives should evolve. We should do new things, bring in new things. But I mean, one week you're saying you're doing one thing, and the next week you're doing something else, and the next week you're doing something else. I mean, what's being perfected in the process? You're all over the place. I always say, and I tell our team all the time, our CB4L team, and Minister Debbie is on here, and she will tell you if she could talk that we do add things to our program, but we don't add anything until we've mastered the one thing. And once we've mastered that thing, then we add something else while we sustain the other thing. But some of us, we're just picking up stuff because we see somebody making a post that their business is doing that, and you see that their posts are going viral and people are liking what they do. So now all of a sudden you're selling sweatshirts, and now that you're selling the sweatshirts, the business starts drop off a little bit because you need to maintain some consistency. And now somebody is doing warm-up suits, adding the leggings, the leggings, the Spanx, or not Spanx, but leggings to their outfits. So now you're adding that to your outfit. And then you see somebody else come out with a little jacket, army fatigue jacket with their logo on it. So now you got the t-shirt, you got the sweatshirt, you got the leggings, and now you're trying to do this and you haven't even mastered the sweatshirts. I hope you're getting my picture, all over the place, right? And my business coach, she's really hard on us, Dr. Nikki, about using AI to generate everything, generate our pictures, generate this, and uh, um, all this kind of stuff. And 1 minute we look in one way, and the next minute we look in another way, and this way we look in this way, and then it's like it's scattered all over the place. Get your identity, get your assignment, and get your focus so you can build your momentum. You can't be everybody because you will lose yourself. You can't do what everybody else is doing. Hear me good, because you will lose yourself. And one day you'll wake up and wonder, where did I go? I used to talk like this, but what happened to me? Because now you have taken all the little bits and pieces of everybody else and put them into your personality, and you've lost who you were. I'll say, be proud of who God made you to be. You are fearfully and you are wonderfully made. You want momentum. You want to be able to sustain the things that God has given you to do. He did not give you to do everybody else's assignment. I love to be inspired by God. When God drops something in my spirit, I'll pray about that thing and I ask God to give me some more steps. To show me how to walk this thing out. Show me how to do this thing. It may not be like you want it. I even heard someone say to me, Pastor C, I love your live. I love the way you bring it about. But so and so, when they do this, I mean, they get fired up and they are preaching and they are just really exhorting and they're really this. Well, that's not the way I do it, because I want you, me personally, when you leave here, I want you to be able to hear what's being said. Because I know sometimes when I go to church and the preachers is really excited, they're preaching and they're preaching, they're preaching, they're preaching, and they're exhorting. They throw out this little, cliche or whatever the case may be. And that's good for them. It's good. In the moment we get excited, we're shouting, we're praising God. But when we go home, what are you remembering? You know, I can't be nobody but me. You can't be nobody but you. So you want God to give you momentum, a steady pace in what you're doing so that what you do will last. So that what you do will have fortitude. So that what you do will come into fruition with clarity. You hear what I'm saying? Come into fruition with clarity. I like that. Aisha said unique. I'm gonna have to adopt that. That'll preach. That's a nice T-shirt, Aisha. I think we need to do that, right? Unique. Be unique. I like that. So you have to ask yourself some execution questions like, what did God assign me? What did God assign for you? Scattered energy chases stimulation. When you're all over the place, you're looking to be stimulated. You want someone to tell you, go ahead. You want a sign, you want a wonder, you want a profound confirmation, right? When God speaks in a still small voice, he does. Sustained execution, it builds structure. And you want structure in your life. You want systems in your life. You want things in place so that when one thing doesn't work, at least you can keep rolling till you get to a place where you can fix it. Like if my car is going, I get a flat tire, if the tire is going flat, it hasn't gone flat yet. I need to make it to the air machine so I can get some more air in my tire. Because I'm watching it and I've got systems in place. I got structures in place. I know where I need to go if I need help, right? Some of us, we're moving so fast that you don't even know where your way station is. Hello, somebody. I heard God speak to me right there, because some of you are moving so fast, you don't even know where your way station is. You don't even know who your sustainers are. Who are your people that will give you constructive criticisms from a pure place so that you don't go haywire, right? My husband is that person. He'll tell me, slow down. He'll tell me, I don't think you need to do that right now. Or you better go ahead and do that because God's been telling you to do that. Move ahead. You need people in your life that's going to keep your momentum in the pace that God is moving you in, because sustained execution builds structure, and structure protects your momentum. Look, Isaiah 26:3 says, you will keep him in perfect peace, whose mind is stayed on you. Stayed. That word means fixed, anchored, and steady. See, peace comes from sustained focus. If your mind is bouncing everywhere, your momentum is going to bounce everywhere too. So let me say this clearly. You cannot build forward if you are constantly looking sideways. All right? Comparison is going to disrupt your momentum. It's going to disrupt your concentration. Distraction is going to drain your discipline, and divided attention, it weakens your execution. So MMB, emotion, minding my business. Emotion, it means I choose my lane that God assigns to me and I stay in it long enough to build something that is profitable, sustainable. It means I stop monitoring everybody else's progress and start measuring my own consistency. It means I honor the rhythm that God is building in my life. And rhythm is powerful because rhythm creates predictability, and predictability builds trust, and trust builds capacity. And let me tell you this, capacity builds speed. But you don't start with speed, you start with focus, you start with repetition, you start with showing up again and again and again and again, right? So let me ask you something that might shift your next 30 days. What if you stop chasing new ideas and committed to executing the one you already have? Stop. Stop chasing all this other new stuff and just commit to that one thing that you already have. What if you protected your focus like it was sacred? And it is. What if you let consistency quietly build momentum behind the scenes? Stop always blasting to everybody else what you're doing, looking for confirmation, looking for approval, looking for, some type of self motivation, really that's people pleasing, right? You want people to accept you. Stop it. Let it build momentum behind the scenes when nobody's watching, when no one knows what you're doing, only between you and God. Just work it out. Work out your soul salvation with fear and trembling before the presence of God. Cycle breakers momentum is not dramatic, it's discipline. And when focus fuels your rhythm will fuel your results. So tonight, don't ask for speed, ask God for steadiness. Don't look for the applause. Don't ask for the applause. Ask God for alignment. Don't ask for sudden breakthroughs. Lord, I want it and I want it now. I want my money and I want it now, right? No, don't ask for the sudden breakthrough. Ask for sustained execution because when your mind is on minding your business, you stay in your lane and you build with rhythm. You build with rhythm. Rhythm, momentum will find you. And this time you won't just start strong, you're going to finish steady. All right. So I hope you all got it on tonight because we want God to give us momentum. Momentum, MMB, in motion is building momentum. No matter what people see, no matter what people like, no matter what they say about you, the bottom line is I'm staying focused. Because I tell you this all the time, and I hear it all the time. My mentor says it to me all the time. Dr. Nikki Ziegler, Herpreneur Network, she says it all the time. Bishop Pfeiffer tells me all the time, don't worry about the people, because there's some people, they're not going to ever like what you do. They're not going to ever like what you choose. Some people are they major in being your critic. I know it. There are some people that people will smile in your face and act like they got your back and can't wait for you to leave the room. Now, I'm not trying to make anybody suspicious, but that's just the fact of life. It's the fact of nature. But the bottom line is this, you have to know who you are. Know your identity in Christ. Sometimes we have what we call uh these you ever see these movies where people have 7 different personalities, schizophrenic, right? Sometimes we have people in the body of Christ that are spiritually schizophrenic. One day they're Tammy, the next day they Sue, and then they're Sue, and now they're Karen. Now they're Karen, now they Joe, God forbid. They just change their identity switches. I'm not talking about hairstyles. In fact, my mom will tell you, my dad was like, if we didn't change our hairstyle, that was a sign of laziness. So, I went from an afro to afro puffs, from afro puffs to one puff, to a braid or a ponytail, whatever. But, so hairstyles don't bother me. Your hair color, it is your hair color. Be yourself, be authentic. If that's what you like, be it. But I'm talking about changing your character to the point that one day you're one way, the next day you're another way, and the next day you're another way. I mean, I don't even know how you wonder why people can't relate to you because you can't relate to yourself. You got to know who you are. In the world that we're living in is so important to MMB. Mind your business. And I said it with a lot of influence because sometimes we're too busy in everybody else's business. You know, who they're with, what they wearing, what they doing, what they said, where they went last week. I mean, you so in everybody else's business that when God is speaking to you, you don't even know his voice. The only voice we recognize sometimes is the gossip line. But I'm telling you, this 2026 is the year to cut off all the gossip, to cut off all the minding everybody else's business. It's time to mind our business. Time is short. People are getting up out of here. I'm talking about going to be with the Lord. So you got to live your life the best you can with the days that you have left. So it used to be that when you were, turned into your 50s or whatever, you worried that maybe death would come early. But I'm telling you, 7-year-olds are dying, 8-year-olds are dying, 9-year-old, 10-year-olds, 12-year-old, 15-year-olds are dying. And for them, that was dying early, right? Um, it's not about a number. It's about you mastering the days that God puts in your hand. What are you doing with your time? Are you moving in the speed that God has called you to move in? Are you building your momentum behind the scenes? MMB, master, master the momentum, master your gifts, master your talents, and by all means, be yourself. That might mean getting alone, taking on a fast day, taking on a fast couple days, I mean, FAST, fasting, getting in the word of God, helping God, asking God to show you who you are, to realign with what he made you to be, who he made you to be, so that you can carry out your divine assignments. It's divine. There's only one you. There's only one you. You might have 5 people doing a podcast, but nobody can do it like you. You can have 5 people writing a book, but only one person can say it like you can say it. I'm telling you, it's time to MMB, right? It's time, amen, for us to show up and be who God is calling us to be, right? MMB, master your motion, all right? Master your motion. Look, it's 7:02. It's time to get off our live. I hope that it blessed you. I just want to say thank you all so much for coming in. Linda, thank you for coming in. Teresa, Mom, Aisha, good to see you. So many here on tonight, and I'm grateful that you're here, hearing the word of the Lord on tonight. Listen, don't forget, if you got my newest book, The Other Side of Done, I need you to jump over to Amazon and leave a review. Leave a review about the book, how it's blessed you, what was your aha moment, your takeaway. Let's help push this book. I will be joining Dr. Sandy Sanders on March the 10th at 7:30 here on Facebook for Coffee Conversations with Sandy, where I'll be talking about my book, The Other Side of Done. So I'm a part of her author tour, and I hope that you'll be able to join me March the 10th at 7:30 right here on Facebook. So it's not on my page, but it'll be Coffee Conversations with Sandy. Listen, I am so elated that you have taken this time to be with us here on Cycle Breaking Monday. Thank you. Apply what you've learned. Go over there, get that workbook. If you haven't done it yet, download it. We're in week 8. Do the assessments, answer the questions, speak those affirmations. There is so much in this workbook that's going to solidify what we talked about on tonight's MMB, minding my business. God bless you all. I got my pom-pom. I'm cheering for you. I'm always on the sidelines of your journey. And remember, the Cycle Breakers cheer is contagious. And even though the devil knows our name, when we cheer, we change the game. So you keep MMBing, and I'll see you on Friday for Friday Empowerment, your 5-minute reset for the weekend, and then back, if the Lord's willing, for Cycle Breaking Monday, week 9 of our series, MMB, Shift, Align, and Execute. This is Pastor C, and I'm so grateful that you were here with us on tonight. God bless you all. Bye-bye.